Greetings, Moors. This is the Secretary of State Hajib, Minister of Foreign Affairs, YeSharon Akasha Elrose Bay, with the reading of the Constitution for Unami Buffalo Nation Anti-Pennsylvania, whose mission is to restore, reinstitute, and reaffirm the Moroccan Empire. This presentation is being provided to ensure all Moroccans nationalized through our state have read and or listened to the Constitution so they are aware of the laws and protections they are entitled. The Preamble. This present Constitution applies to the Moroccan nationals, Moroccan subjects, and the treaties between Moroccan states. We the people, the perennial Moors, descendants of the Moroccan Empire, in honor of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, standing on our 5 points of light: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, are determined and competent to exercise the full powers of the state to restore, reinstitute, and reaffirm our Moroccan nationals and Moroccan subjects in Northwest Mexum, Northwest Africa, also known as North America. Unami Buffalo Nation Anti-Pennsylvania will apply our constitutional principles to establish this restoration, reinstitution, and reformation of the Moroccan Empire. Our dominions for Unami Buffalo Nation Anti-Pennsylvania now include all land, air, and waterways within latitude 39 degrees 43 to 42 degrees 16 north, longitude 74 degrees 41 to 80 degrees 31 west. Total square miles 46,055 square miles. Land 44,816.61 square miles. Water 1,239 miles of water. 2.7% dimensions. Total length 170 miles. Width 283 miles. Elevation 1,100 feet. Highest elevation, referred to as Mount Davis, 3,213 feet. Lowest elevation, Delaware River to Delaware border, 0 feet to 27,493 feet. These are our dominions, our divine dominions from the center of planet Earth to the outer regions of space, which we restore, reinstitute, and reaffirm. Article 1. Use of terms. For the purpose of the present Constitution, A. Treaty means an international agreement concluded between states in written form and governed by international law, whether embodied in a single instrument or in 2 or more related instruments in whatever its particular designation. B. Constitution means the body of laws setting out the fundamental principles according to which a state is governed in defining the relationship between the various branches of government within the state. C. Ratification. Acceptance, approval, and accession means in each case the international act so named whereby a state establishes on the international plane its consent to be bound by a treaty. D. Full powers means a document emanating from the competent authority of a state designating a person or persons to represent the state for negotiating, adopting, or authenticating the text of a treaty, for expressing the consent of the state to be bound by a treaty, or for accomplishing any other act which represents or respect to a treaty. Number E. Reservation means a unilateral statement, however phrased or named, made by a state when signing, ratifying, accepting, approving, or acceding to a treaty, whereby its purpose to exclude or to modify the legal effect of certain provisions of the treaty in which their application to the state. F. Negotiating state means a state which took part in the drawing up and adoption of the treaty. G. Contracting state means a state which has consented to be bound by the treaty, whether or not the treaty has entered into force. H. Party means a state which has consented to be bound by the treaty and for which the treaty is in force. I. Third state means a state not a party to a treaty. J. International organization means an intergovernmental organization. K. Person means a representative of a state for the purpose of adopting or authenticating the text of a treaty or for the purpose of expressing the consent of a state to be bound by a treaty. If, number one, he produces appropriate full powers, or number two, it appears for the practice of the states concerned or from other circumstances that their intention was to be considered that person as representing the state for such purposes and to dispense with full powers. And lastly, L, magazine, means a representative, plenipotentiary, or nobleman of a state. A continuation of Article 1, inalienable rights. Every woman, man, and child, all mothers and sons, are born with certain inalienable and endowed rights by Allah, having nothing but its own rights expressed in, throughout its creation, rights that we, the autochthonous, aboriginal, and indigenous people Moors, from the land have by pedigree accrued throughout time immemorial, are hereby included in this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moorish Empire. These rights can never be taken away, diminished, altered, or levied by government. No contract, fraud, sufferance, nor under color of law can any unalienable right be removed from Unami Buffalo Nation, anti-Pennsylvania. These rights include, yet are not limited to, the following: the right to life, freedom, health, and the pursuit of happiness. The inviolable right to contract or not to contract. The right to earn a living through the fair exchange of one's work for compensation. The right to travel by land, air, water, and space in the ordinary course of one's affairs. The right to privacy and confidentiality, free from unwarranted invasion. The right to claim and hold land allodial without trespass. The right to self-defense when threatened with harm, loss, or deceit. The right to due process of law with notice and opportunity to defend. The right to bear arms and participate in official militia for the defense of the nation, irrespective of any prior legal status. The right to be secure in one's persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. The right to be presumed innocent, suffering no detention or arrest, no search or seizure without reasonable cause. The right to remain silent when accused, to avoid self-incrimination. The right to equity in the eyes of the law and to equal voice in the courts. The right to an impartial court of competent national jurists. The right to appeal in law against conviction or sentence, or both. The right to expose knowledge necessary to one's right and freedoms. The right to peaceful association, assembly, expression of dissent, and protest. The right to practice a religion and to have beliefs or one's choosing. The right to love, consensual matrimony, and to raise a family. The right to security from abuse, prosecution or persecution, tyranny, and war. The right to refuse to kill under command by reason of conscience. The right to live in peace and be left alone when abiding by law. The right that our status, pedigree, and national standing shall perpetually endure. The right to promote and to provide erudition on our cultural diversity, richness of civilization, and our contributions aboriginal to humankind on earth. The right to perpetually free from the right to be perpetually free from discrimination of any kind. The right to repossess lands and resources resulting from colonization and forced coercive dispositions of land, territories, and resources. The right of every Moor derived from our political, economic, social, cultural, spiritual, scientific, chronological, and philosophical structures. The right to our lands, dominions, and resources cannot be abridged. The right to enter into treaties, agreements, accords, and constructive arrangements with any and all states and nations of the world. The right to exercise control and oversight over developments affecting our lands, dominions, and resources for the protection of the environment with economic reciprocity to our nation. The right to establish institutions for erudition in culture, science, spirituality, traditional healing, child raising, agriculture, architecture, construction, national and international law, as well as any other field of study necessary or prudent for the ongoing development of our nation. The right to live in a demilitarized region where love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are the foundations form the social order. The full entitlement without discrimination to all human rights recognized in international law. The right to the full enjoyment as a collective or as individuals of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the unabridged Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People, the Declaration on the Rights of the Child, and international human rights. These unalienable and inalienable rights are not the only ones protected under the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moroccan Empire. Rights not expressed here yet still inherent shall be as inviolable as the ones delineated. The strength of the people is in knowing their rights. It is incumbent on this provincial government to assure that all Moroccan nationals within our dominions have been given erudition on these rights and how to live by them. Article 2. Legislative Branch, the Dalalazi. Number 1. The provincial divan, as expressed in this, the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation, shall include 3 branches of governance. Herein shall be covered the legislative branch. Number 2. The Dalalazi shall have general oversight of all provincial government operations. The head shall hold the title of Sayaraha and shall manage the administrative affairs for the Dalalazi. The Sayara shall be elected as their first order of business by the Dalalazi body annually on the 2nd of May of each year. The election shall be affirmed by the Wazir and the head Qazi. The Sayaraha shall be the determining vote in a case of a tie. Number 3. The Dalalazi shall introduce, vote on, and present the Wazir for signature any and all bills which pass through their body. Bills for the consideration may be presented to the Dalalazi for within the body, from the Wazir, and Moroccan nationals who are the body politic for the provincial government. The Dalalazi shall oversee and initiate, if necessary, impeachment proceedings for removal upon any executive, Dalalazi, or judicial officer who violates and abuses their powers in contradiction of this matriarch. Number 4, the Dalalazi members shall be constrained from admitting patriarchs into their ranks, using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not approved by the Dalalazi, issuing special interest bills, presuming to confer civil rights, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Number 5. The Dalalazi shall be charged with overseeing the national trust, which is the treasury. The Dalalazi members shall appoint 3 nationals as trustees for the National Trust, and those 3 trustees are then to appoint a manager of the Treasury, who shall be contracted to facilitate the accounting of revenues, reporting, and distributions from the Treasury as per contractual obligations. Number 6, the requirements for being elected to the Dalalazi shall be: the candidate must be a matriarch, a womb man by natural birth. The candidate must be at least 35 years old. The candidate must be a national for at least 4 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competencies in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 years. And the candidate cannot be a subject of subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 7, elections for the Dalalazi members shall take place on the 7th of Ramadan, March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1443 Christian calendar year, which is 2023. Christian calendar year, I'm sorry, that was Moorish. There shall initially be 5 legislative members, 2 of which are elected to 5-year terms and 3 elected to 3-year terms and 3-year terms. Thus, the Dalalazi shall have a staggered election protocol. Every 5 years, 2 members of the Dalalazi are elected to a 5-year term beginning in 2023 Christian calendar year, which translates into 1444, the Islamic year. Every 5 years, 3 members of the Dalalazi are elected to a 5-year term beginning 1447 Moorish calendar year, 2026 Christian calendar year. The initial election shall have 3 members of the Dalalazi elected to a 3-year term and elected to a 5-year term. Number 8, the number of Dalalazi's members may be increased as population and demand increases from 5 to 7, from 7 to 9, and from 9 to 13. 13 shall be the maximum number in the Dalalazi, unless so charged by a law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation convention. Number 9, oaths taking from the Dalalazi shall be on the 1st of May of the same year. The Dalalazi members cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office 3 times in their lifetime. Number 10, in the event of the office of the Seraha is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocols shall apply. In the case of resignation and impeachment, the Seraha shall have 30 days to finalize any pending matters requiring their attention. The 30-day period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Wazir and the head Qazi. The remaining Dalalazi members shall vote a new Seraha to fill the remaining term of the vacating Seraha, who then must be approved by the Wazir and the Qazi, the head Qazi. In the case of death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitating condition, or mental incapacity, the remaining legislative members shall vote a new Seraha to fill the remaining term of the vacating Sayraha, who then must be approved by the Wazir and the head Qazi. Any Dalalazi member vacating office shall be obligated to the same protocols as the Sayraha. Article 3, Executive Branch, Wazir al-Ras, Prime Minister. Number 1. The provincial divan, as expressed in this, the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation, shall include 3 branches of government. Herein shall be covered the executive branch. Wazir shall be the title for the highest office in the government. This executive office includes a deputy, secretariat, as well as other offices required for the executive administration from provincial affairs. The Wazir and other offices or officers under their oversight shall be governed by this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation. The executive office is afforded the privacy or the privilege of being the supreme officer, spokesperson, appoints a secretariat, appoints ambassadors, addresses issues of national importance, and works with the Dalalazi for the signing and institution of bills which facilitate services focused on the well-being of the people. The Wazir has the power to veto a decision by the Dalalazi if the vote is by less than 67%, which is 2/3 affirmative. Number 3, the Wazir shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, influence peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not approved by the Dalalazi, issuing executive orders, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Also, the Wazir is constrained from adding offices and executive departments without the approval of the Dalalazi. The requirements for being elected as Wazir shall be: the candidate must be at least 35 years old. The candidate must be a Moroccan national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competency in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. The candidate cannot be of subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 4, elections of the Wazir shall take place on the 7th of Ramadan 1444, March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1444/2023. Inauguration for the Wazir shall be on the 19th of Ramadan 1444, May 1st of the same year. The Wazir cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office 3 times in one lifetime. Number 5, the secretariat offices shall be appointed by the Wazir and instituted under oath immediately following election and confirmation by the Dalalazi. Deputy Wazir, these are the offices. These are the executive branch offices. First is the Deputy Wazir. The second is the Dar al-Waziyat, which is the secretariat, non-elected position appointed by the Wazir. The Hajib, the Secretary of State. The Qadi, the deed tax assessor. The Razim is Undersecretary for National Standing appointed, Undersecretary for Trust and Estates appointed, and Undersecretary for Transportation appointed. Mufti / Consul General, Sutra, Secretary for Defense, Sharif, Enforcer appointed, Nabi, Secretary of Education and Spiritual Science, and Wai, Secretary of Health and Family Well-being. Number 6. In the event of the office of the Wazir is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocols shall apply. In the case of resignation and impeachment, the Wazir shall have 30 days to finalize any and all pending matters requiring their attention. The 30-day period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Sayaraha and the head Qazi. In the case of death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitating conditions, or mental incapacity, the line of succession shall apply. The line of succession is Deputy Wazir, Hajib, Saraha, Mufti, Sutra. The successor who fills the vacated Wazir position shall do so for the remainder of the existing term. The position vacated as a result of the succession shall be filled by the appointment from the Wazir with the approval from the Dalalazi and the head Qazi. Article 4 Magzin, the nobleman. Number 1. The provincial divans are expressed in this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation, shall include 3 branches of governance. Herein shall be covered the executive branch. Magzin shall be the title for this office in the government. The executive office includes a deputy, secretariat, as well as other offices required for the executive administration from provincial affairs. The Magzin and the offices under their oversight shall be governed by this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation. The executive office is afforded the privilege of being the nobleman, spokesperson, appoints a secretariat, appoints ambassadors, addresses issues of national importance, and works with the Amir for the facilitating services focused on the well-being of the people. Number 2, the Magzin shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not appointed by the Dalalazi, issuing executive orders, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Also, the Magzin is constrained from adding offices and executive departments without the approval from the Dalalazi. The number 3, the requirements for being elected as Magzin shall be: the candidate must be at least 35 years old. The candidate must be a patriarch. The candidate must be a Moroccan national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competency in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 years consecutively. The candidate cannot be a subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 4, elections of the Magzin shall take place on the 7th of Ramadan, 1444, March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1444/2023. Inauguration for the Magzin shall be on the 19th of Ramadan, 1444, the 1st of May of the same year. The Magzin cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office 3 years in one lifetime. 3 times in one lifetime. Number 5, secretariat offices shall be appointed by the Magzin and installed under oath immediately following the election and confirmation by the Dalalazi. Number 6, in the event of office of the Magzin is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocols shall apply. In the case of resignation and impeachment, the Magzin shall have 30 days to finalize any and all pending matters requiring their attention. The 30-day period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Sayraha and the head Qazi. In the case of death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitating condition, or mental incapacity, the line of succession shall apply. Number 7, the lines of succession is Hajib, Mufti, Sutra. The successor who fills the vacated Magzin position shall do so for the remainder of the existing term. The position vacated as a result of the succession shall be filled by the appointment from the Magzin with the approval from the Dalalazi and the head Qazi. Article 5, Amir, noble woman. Number 1. The provincial divan, as expressed in this, the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation, shall include 3 branches of governance. Herein shall be covered the executive branch. Amir shall be the title of this executive office. This executive office includes a deputy secretariat as well as other offices required for the executive administration for provincial affairs. The Amir and the offices under their oversight shall be governed by this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation. The executive office is afforded the privilege of being the noblewoman spokesperson, appoints a secretariat, appoints ambassadors, address issues of national importance, and work with the magazine for facilitating offices focused on the well-being of the people. Number 2, Amir shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, influence peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not approved by the wazir or the dalalazi, issuing executive orders, and receiving personal oaths of allegiance. Also, the Amir is constrained from adding offices in executive departments without the approval by the dalalazi. Number 3. The requirement for being elected as Amir shall be the candidate must be at least 35 years old. The candidate must be a matriarch. The candidate must be a Moroccan national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competencies in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. The candidate cannot be a subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 4. The election of the Amir shall take place the 7th of Ramadan, 1444, March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1444, 2023. Inauguration for the Amir shall be on the 19th of Ramadan, 1444, May 1st of the same year. The Amir cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office 3 times in one lifetime. Number 5. Secretariat office shall be appointed by the Amir and installed under oath immediately following the election and confirmation by the Dalalazi. Article 6, Dejamas, Council of Elders. I'm going to refer to them as the Council of Elders. Number 1. The provincial divan, as expressed in this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moorish Empire, shall include 3 branches of governance. Herein shall be covered in the executive branch, councils of elders shall be the title for the highest office in the Council of Elders, the Jamas. This executive office includes an assistant secretariat as well as other offices required for the executive administration from provincial affairs. The Council of Elders and the offices under their oversight shall be governed by this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moorish Empire. This executive office is afforded the privilege of being the supreme officer, spokesperson, appoints a secretariat, appoints an assistant, addresses issues of national importance. Number 2, the Council of Elders shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, influence peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not appointed by the Dalalazi, issuing executive orders, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Also, the Council of Elders is constrained from adding offices in executive departments without the approval of the Dalalazi. Number 3, the requirements for being elected as councils of the elders. The candidate must be at least 65 years old. The candidate must be a Moroccan national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competencies in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. The candidate cannot be of Moorish subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 4, elections of the Council of Elders shall take place on the 7th of Ramadan, 1444 / March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1444 / 2023. Inaugurations for the Council of Elders shall be on the 19th of Ramadan, 1444, May 1st of the same year. The Council of Elders cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office three times in a lifetime. Number 5, Secretariat and assistants shall be appointed by the Council of Elders and installed under oath immediately following the election and confirmation by the Dalalazi. Number 6, in the event that the office of the Council of Elders is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocols shall apply. In the case of resignation and impeachment, the Council of Elders shall have 30 days to finalize any and all pending matters requiring their attention. The 30-day period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Seraha and the head Qazi. In the case of death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitating conditions, or mental incapacity, the line of succession shall apply. Number 7, the line of succession is Makhzin, Amir, Seraha. The successor who fills the vacated Council of Elders position, shall do so for the remainder of the existing term. The position vacated as a result of the succession may be filled by the appointment from the Council of Elders with the approval from the Dalalazi and the head Qazi. Article 7. Caliph, 5 regions. Number 1. The provincial divan, as expressed in this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moorish Empire, shall include 5 regent locations of governance. Herein shall be covered the executive branch. Caliphs shall be the title for the regency offices in the government. This office of the caliph shall include a vice-regent, chief, elder, and secretariat, as well as other offices required for the executive administration from provincial affairs. The caliphs and the offices under their oversight shall be governed by this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation of the Moorish Empire. This executive office is afforded the privilege of being the regent officer, spokesperson, appoints a secretariat, appoints vice regents, appoints elders, appoints chiefs, addresses issues of national importance, communicates and gives orders to the corporate state governors, and works with the Qadi, Mufti, and Sutra, which facilitate services focused on the well-being of the people. Number 2, the caliphs shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, executive undue influence, influence peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices approved by the Dalalazi, not approved by the Dalalazi, issuing executive orders, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Also, the caliphs is constrained from adding offices and executive departments without the approval by the Dalalazi. Number 5, the requirements for being elected as caliph shall be: the candidate must be at least 35 years old. The candidate must be a Moroccan national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated competencies in Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as appreciation for the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. The candidate cannot be a subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 4, elections for the caliphs shall take place the 7th of Ramadan, 1444, March 21st of each 5th year, starting with the year 1444/2023. Inauguration for the caliph shall be on the 19th of Ramadan, 1444, May 1st of the same year. The caliphs cannot serve consecutive terms of office, yet they may run for the same office after a full term has passed, and they may only serve in the same office 3 times in one lifetime. 5, secretariat offices shall be appointed by the caliphs and installed under oath immediately following election and confirmation by the Dalalazi. The 5 Regency offices are Wanandega, the Central Region. See? Wanande, Waneda, the North Regency. Cuyahoga, the South Regency. Mohawk, the East Regency. And Seneca, the West Regency. 6. In the event of the office of the caliphs is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocol shall apply. In the case of resignation and impeachment, the caliph shall have 30 days to finalize any and all pending matters requiring their attention. The 30 days period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Seyraha and the head Qazi. In the case of death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitating condition, or mental incapacity, the lines of succession shall apply. Number 7. The line of succession is vice regent, chief, elder, amir, muqzin. The successor who fills the vacated caliph position shall do so for the remainder of the existing term. The position vacated as a result of the succession shall be filled by the appointment from the caliph with the approval from the Dalal Aziz and the head Qazi. Article 8. Qazi. Number 1. The provincial divan as expressed in this, the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation shall include 3 branches of governance. Here shall be covered the judicial branch. The judicial branch, the judicial power of the provincial government shall be vested in one Supreme Court hereafter known as the Daru Adi, with authority herein given to establish no more than 12 district Daru Aziz as population and demand required. Each district shall be overseen by the Qazi justice. As a new district is established, a new Qazi is added to oversee its functions. Number 2. Initially, there shall be only 3 Qazi authorized to oversee and administer one Darul Adi, and as needed for the 3 district Darul Adis serving the landing regions, corporately known as Pennsylvania. No inferior courts or administrative tribunals are authorized. There shall be 3 Qazis to serve as judicial officers overseeing civil actions, criminal actions, family actions, consular actions, contract arbitration, estate disposition cases, and other procedural actions as required. Number 3. The Qazi judicial branch members shall be constrained from using the office for personal gain, exercising undue influence, influence peddling, receiving emoluments from a foreign power, receiving bribes, appointing offices not approved by the Dalal Aziz, ruling against the Constitution, and requiring personal oaths of allegiance. Number 4. The requirement for being elected to the Darul Adi shall be the candidate must be at least 45 years old. The candidate must be national for at least 6 years. The candidate must have demonstrated appreciation for Moorish science and culture, Moorish chronology, national civics, as well as the well-being of the people. The candidate must have lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. The candidate cannot be subject status within any imperial provincial government. Number 5. Elections for the Qazi, Daul Adi justices, shall take place the 7th of Ramadan, 1444, March 21st of each 20th year, starting with year 2023, 2031, and 2037. There shall initially be 3 Qazi, Daul Adi justices, one of which is elected to an 8-year term, and one elected to a 14-year term, and one elected to a 20-year term. Thus, the Qazi, Daul Adi justices shall have a staggering election protocol. Every 20 years, one Qazi is elected for a 20-year term beginning 2023. Every 20 years, one Qazi is elected to a 20-year term beginning 2031, and every 20 years, one Qazi is elected for a 20-year term beginning 2037. Oath taking For the Qazi shall be on the 19th of Ramadan, 1444, May the 1st of the same year. The Daru Adi members may serve consecutive terms of office, and they may only serve in the same office for 2 terms in one lifetime. 6. In the event of the office of the head Qazi is vacated either by resignation, impeachment, incapacity, or death, the following protocols shall apply. In the case of the resignation and impeachment, the head Qazi shall have 30 days to finalize any and all pending matters requiring their attention. And the 30-day period can be reduced to immediate dismissal with approval by the Wazir and Seraha. A new head Qazi shall be chosen by the remaining Qazi after a new Qazi is chosen with the Wazir and Dalalazi approval to fill the term of the vacating Qazi. In the case of the death or incapacity, terminal illness, physical debilitation, condition, or mental incapacity, a new Qazi is chosen to fill the remaining term of the vacated Qazi with the approval of the Wazir and the Seraha, and subsequently the new body of the Qazi shall choose a head Qazi. Number 7. All nationals holding offices in our nation, Unami Buffalo Nation, anti-Pennsylvania, must be under oath to uphold, support, reflect the law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation for Unami Buffalo Nation, anti-Pennsylvania by working unwaveringly to assure that all laws, principles, and decisions are carried out for the good of the people. This oath shall be administered by the head Qazi. When the oath is for the head Qazi, the Seraha shall administer the oath. Article 9. National Trust. Number 1. The National Trust for the Provincial Government shall be established as an international, divinely established sovereign allodial express trust. Number 2. The purpose of the National Trust for the Provincial Government is to provide for management, oversight, reporting, accounting for revenues, and distributions for and from the Treasury. Number 3. The Treasury for the National Trust is in the capacity of general manager for the National Trust with limited and delegated authority over the Treasury. The Treasury reports directly to the trustees for the National Trust. The Dalalazi shall choose and contract 3 nationals who shall serve as trustees for the National Trust. These trustees report directly to the Dalalazi. The trustees are responsible for delineating the terms and conditions for the treasurer, general manager, agents, and contracted workers. Number 4. The National Trust shall provide full disclosure as to all revenues and distributions not of a personal nature, so as to protect privacy and to facilitate confidence in the government's ability and intention to fulfill its missions honorably. The plan for revenues management shall be as follows. From 100% of revenue in a given period, either monthly, quarterly, or biannually, as the trustees shall see fit, the revenues shall be distributed as follows. 10% may be contributed to various Moroccan Empire development funds which support Moorish erudition, provincial government departments, Moorish housing, and Moorish family support. 10% to remain as reserves in the Treasury, 40% to be used for government management, and 40% to be distributed among the registered nationals who lived within the provincial dominions for a minimum of 3 years from the prior accounting period. Thus, this may also include those subject status, yet their amount would be half that of the national. The accounting period used for managing the accounting for revenues and distributions shall be simple debts, credit accounting, no double entry booking. Number 5. Any and all allodial claims to land within our dominion shall be held in allodial, aboriginal, paramount, clear, perfect title. The National Trust shall be the first lien holder on all lands claimed allodial by the government and by the nationals. The National Trust via trustee shall liaison with the Hajib, Secretary of State, to facilitate the conveyance of claims and titles required for lands and conveyances, automobiles. The National Trust is in conjunction with the Hajib, Secretary of State, shall facilitate the claims on abandoned lands within our dominions. Number 6. Also, the National Trust and Hajib, Secretary of State, shall establish protocols for interfacing with foreign occupiers who are occupying our dominions, partial by partial, to facilitate admirable and equitable rents. The Hajib, Secretary of State, shall operate on behalf of the National Trust by asserting our right of review, oversight, and approval, or not for developments within our provincial government. Number 7. Money, currency, fiat, Federal Reserve notes, private commercial paper, and cryptocurrency are all forms of exchange used in trade and commerce. Money is gold and silver coinage. One troy ounce of silver, 1 troy ounce of gold, also broken down into smaller ounce denominations, are for the full payment of all debts. Currency can be any commodity used and agreed upon by the trading of commercial partners to use to consummate trade and commercial intercourse. Fiat is a term used to describe all other forms of money currency besides gold and silver. Fiat is counterfeit due to the fact that it is only valued by the consent of the users, having no intricate value in its own merit. Federal Reserve notes are bills or notes of exchange issued by the Federal Reserve to be issued for the revenue accounting, management, and taxation upon the United States citizens. This is the common form of exchange instrument used in Northwest Mexico, North America. Private commercial paper is any form of negotiable instrument used to satisfy obligations in trade or commerce. These obligations can be represented as bonds, bills of exchange, promissory notes, deeds of trust, letters of credit, debentures, as well as investment instruments such as stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, and securities of all types. Cryptocurrencies, electronic currencies, blockchain, and all forms of electronic currency exchange mediums are new to the environment of international trade and commerce. These currencies are primarily used by countries that have chosen a corporate as opposed to a sovereign status. Unami Buffalo Nation, Anti-Pennsylvania, shall reserve the right to use real money and currency as described above in order to facilitate the required trade and commerce agreements and arrangements for the provincial government. Unami Buffalo Nation, Anti-Pennsylvania, reserves the right to coin and mint money as needed. Article 10, General Provisions. Number 1. This government shall be fully representative. No one serving in an office shall receive a salary, compensation, or other financial gift structures. Every official is entitled to receive within reasonable limits, with documentation, reimbursement for expenses incurred while carrying out government affairs. Each official is also a national and will serve the same benefits from national distributions that all other nationals receive. Number 2. Every elected or appointed official works for the people who are the nation. Any attempt to confer upon oneself a title other than the title they are elected is so prohibited and will subject the official to investigation for infractions against the people, their office, and their national government. Number 3. There shall be 2 statuses within Unami Buffalo Nation, Anti-Pennsylvania. Those 2 statuses are national and subject. Both are of the human family and are not intellectual property or trusts. Number 1, a national is one who is by birthright and bloodline of their Moroccan mother, one who has declared and proclaimed their nationality standing as a Moroccan national, also one who has made a specific pledge via oath and allegiance to this provincial government within the dominions of the Greater Moroccan Empire, thus denouncing any prior allegiance and oath to a foreign power. Number 2, a subject, one who is by the DNA of the Moorish father and any claiming a Moorish standing. Also, one who has made a specific pledge via subject status and oath and allegiance to this provincial government within the dominion of the Greater Moroccan Empire. Subject status prohibits one from holding a national office, receiving full allotment from the National Trust, and holding a loyal title to Aboriginal land. Also, they are denouncing any prior assumed allegiance to any foreign power. Number 4. In every society, there are crimes which affect the well-being of the people in adverse ways. 5 crimes shall herein be addressed as anathema to the civil function and free expression in our nation. These 5 crimes are theft of personal or national property, damaging personal or national property, causing physical harm to any woman, man, or child, causing the death via murder of any woman, man, or child, treason against the nation and the nationals. All the crimes listed must have an injured party, victim, and/or personal witness to the fact, with which can be attested by oath and allegiance. The Qazi shall oversee the adjudication of the case regarding the crimes committed. The sentence required by the Qazi shall be unique to each situation for the first 3 crimes. Thereafter, the crimes of murder and treason have specific penalty and punishments mandated. The Sutra shall oversee the required investigation into each of the crimes along with the Sharif. Their investigation protocols shall be in a respect of all the nationals and subjects' unalienable rights, and their findings shall be presented to the Qazi for preparing the necessary court proceedings. The first 3 crimes, theft, property damage, and causing physical harm, must have an injured party, an affidavit of fact attesting to the crime by the victim, evidence corroborating the affidavit of fact, and at least 1 witness. The 4th crime of murder must have evidence showing proof of deceased person, evidence showing cause of death, the witnesses corroborating the evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt. Capital punishment shall be administered with cause by this provincial government. The punishment for the crime of murder shall be 2 categories. First, the murder was committed by a national or subject upon a citizen of a foreign nation. In this first instance, after complete investigation and adjudication, the national or subject is found guilty of murder. They shall be turned over to the offended nation's offices for further sentencing and punishment. Thus, there shall be complete and irrevocable expulsion from the nation for the offending national or subject and destruction of any evidence of national allegiance on file, with a proviso to follow international law and treaties in their adjudication and sentencing. Nothing in this punishment shall follow them throughout the Moroccan Empire. Notification of this punishment shall follow them throughout the Moroccan Empire. Second, the murder was committed by a national or subject against a national or subject. In this second instance, there shall be a complete investigation. If the national or subject is found guilty of murder after a complete investigation, adjudication, and sentencing, the punishment of death shall be carried out immediately. The 5th crime is treason against the nation and the nationals, which carries a penalty of capital punishment. To be found guilty of treason, 2 witnesses to the overt act against a nation shall be sufficient to initiate a full investigation into the treason. The 2 witnesses must each provide an affidavit of fact detailing in explicit fashion the entire scope of what was witnessed, including all parties involved. After complete investigation, adjudication, and sentencing, the punishment shall be carried out immediately. Number 5. Whenever conduct of an official is in question, whether for an official position or for disciplinary action, the parameters used for making such assessment and evaluation as to their capacity for behavioral compliance, conformity, and allegiance to the law of restoration, Constitution, the Dalal Aziz shall be guided by the 5 points of light of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The 7 Hermetic principles being 1. Mentalism, 2. Correspondence, 3. Vibration, 4. Polarity, 5. Rhythm, 6. Cause and effect, 7 gender. The 7 virtues of Mayat being 1, truth, 2, justice, 3, propriety, 4, harmony, 5, balance, 6, reciprocity, and 7, order. The 10 principles of Mayat to have 1, control of thought, 2, control of action, 3, devotion to one's purpose, 4, faith in the matter's ability to teach the truth, 5, faith in one's ability to assimilate the truth, 6, faith in one's ability to wield the truth, and 7, freedom from resentment under persecution, 8, freedom from resentment under wrong, 9, ability to distinguish right from wrong, and 10, the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal, and 42 declarations of innocence as followed. 1, I have done no wrong. 2, I have not robbed. 3, I have not acted with violence. 4, I have not killed. 5, I have not been unjust. 6, I have not caused pain. 7, I have not desecrated holy places. 8, I have not lied. 9, I have not wasted food. 10, I have not spoken evil. 11, I have not committed sodomy. 12, I have not caused the shedding of tears. 13, I have not sown seeds of regret. 14, I have not been an aggressor. 15, I have not acted guilefully. 16, I have not laid waste the plunged land. 7, I have not entered into conspiracy. 8, I did not bear false witness. 19, I have not been wrathful. 20, I have not committed adultery. 21, I have not committed rape. 22, I have not polluted myself. 23, I have not caused terror. 24, I have not polluted the earth. 25, I have not spoken in anger. 26, I have not turned from words of right and truth. 27, I have not uttered curses. 28, I have not initiated a quarrel. 29, I have not been excitable or contentious. 30, I have not prejudiced. 31, I have not been an eavesdropper. 32, I have not spoken overmuch. 33, I have not committed treason against my ancestors. 34, I have not wasted water. 35, I have not done evil. 36, I have not been arrogant. 37, I have not blasphemed the Most High. 38, I have not committed fraud. 39, I have not defrauded temple offerings. 40, I have not plundered the dead. 41, I have not mistreated children. And 42, I have not mistreated animals. These 5 points of light, 7 hermetic principles, 7 virtues of Mayat, 10 principles of Mayat, and the 42 declarations of innocence stand as the foundation for our society, culture, and spiritual development. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all Moroccan nationals and Moroccan subjects for Unami Buffalo Nation anti-Pennsylvania. Whereas barbarianism, inequality, tyranny, slavery, or servitude, oppression, and disregard for inalienable human rights all over the world is and shall always be outlawed and not permitted within the affairs of men. All human beings of planet Earth must proclaim peace and equality as a common standard of achievement for all peoples of all nations, promote and educate universal observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms to the youth and just sanguine heirs of the planet Earth. All human beings, nationals and subjects, have the equal and unalienable right to life, security, international and jurisdictional status through their state liberty, education, religion, property, not to be subjected to torture, inhumane, or degrading treatment, both as free nationals or prisoners, protection, and equal rights before a competent national tribunal, and have the freedom to a peaceful assembly and association. Article 11, Supremacy Clause. The supreme law of the land is this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation, as well as all treaties made or which shall be made under our national seal and flag. Our delegation of authority for establishing this law of restoration are the Great Law of Peace for what is today known as the Iroquois Confederation, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and the Sultan of Morocco, 1786, 87, and 1836, the Treaty of Amity, Commerce, and Navigation between Great Britain and the United States of America, 1794, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Great Britain and Morocco, the Empire, signed in English and Arabic language at Tangier, December 9th, 1856. The right of protection in Morocco, July 3rd, 1880. General Acts of the International Conference of Algeciras, April 7th, 1906. Vienna Convention on the Laws of Treaty, May 23rd, 1969. April 24th, 1970, and entered into force on January 27th, 1980. And for the general reference and support the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Child, United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People, the Law Nations Universal Just Sanguine Claim of Self-Determination, and the allodial right to establish our own culture, social, economic, political, and civilized social society on our own land. This provincial government and all nationals herein shall stand upon the 5 points of light: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We, the autochthonous, aboriginal, indigenous people within our dominions here in Northwest Mexico, West Africa, North America, Turtle Island, and the North Gate, shall remain true to the ideas of law and jurisprudence herein reflected. Article 12, Amendment Protocol. The power to amend this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation is in the hands of the Dalalazi. A vote of 85% of the Dalalazi and the Moroccan nationals voting is required to approve any bill which would amend this law of restoration, reinstitution, and reaffirmation. Before the vote can be taken, approval must be given. After full scrutiny for constitutional compliance is applied by the Qazi, the Wazir, and the Secretariat, each and every Moroccan national must be given the opportunity to cast a vote either yea or nay regarding the amending bill in question. Ratified this day, the 21st of Jumada al-Awwal, 1444, December the 15th, 2022. Islam Moors, that concludes the reading of the Constitution for Moroccan State, Unami Buffalo Nation, Anti-Pennsylvania. Peace and love, and again, welcome home, Moors.